Welcome students, this is Siddhartha Sir, and in this video we are going to learn about imperialism, class 8 history, ICSE board. We'll be learning about the definition of imperialism, the causes of imperialism, and the impact of imperialism. So what is imperialism? Let's see. The word imperialism is actually originated from a Latin word means imperium. This word imperium means supreme power. Therefore, if you define this word imperialism, it means it is a system, right? Imperialism refers to a system by which a powerful nation, these are the key words, please keep it in mind. So, imperialism refers to the system by which powerful nation establishes its control over another country either by political pressure, infiltration, annexation, or by outright wars. So this is imperialism. Now the country which is actually controlled or which is captured by the imperial country, or like we had, like India was taken over by the British Empire, so it becomes a colony of that country, right? Now this colony is actually, becomes a puppet, and it is governed, okay, administered by the capturing country, right? The country which has actually had its control over the colony. Now the imperial nations, they have always, what they did, they have exploited the raw materials and the resources of these colonies. And these colonies, now why they captured these countries, what were the reasons? If we see, they were actually, they provided agricultural lands, agricultural lands, okay. Then they provided trading ports, okay. Moreover, they provided cheap labor also, which they can use to work in their, in their industries, in their factories actually. So by the end of 15th century, it was 15th century where where this system of imperialism began. And if we talk particularly about the British Empire, it was 1600 CE when East India Company, EIC, got its license to trade with India, right? So this is imperialism. And particularly, uh, which countries were taken into colonies? It was basically from Asia and Africa. These were the two continents where the imperialist states have actually made their colonies, right? So it was basically the Europeans who have actually engulfed these two continents, right? Now, basically, the countries, we talk about the countries that were actually taken into, were actually controlled by these imperialist states. It was India, then Sri Lanka, okay, and Myanmar, then Egypt, then it was South Africa, okay, then it was China also. So these were the countries which were actually, made colonies of the British. Now, apart from Britain, so we know that Britain was one country which had actually maximum number of colonies. But besides Britain, there were, Germany, okay, then Japan, quite surprising, very small nation, and was an imperialist state. Then Russia, okay, Italy, And these are the countries uh, which were actually uh, were involved in the imperialism, right? So uh, we are going to talk about the causes of imperialism. So this was a small introduction to what is imperialism and which all countries actually involved in imperialism. So let us come to uh, causes of imperialism. So here we have a small diagram. Now it says that the first one, national prestige. Now what is this national prestige? National prestige means any country having more country. A country is powerful only if it has more overseas possessions. Okay, clear. So this was one reason. Then sources for raw material and market for finished goods. Now, if we talk about India, the Britishers took all the raw materials from India, and finally the finished products were brought back to these colonies to sell, right? So it served as a place for raw materials also, and as well as for the finished products, a market for the finished products. Now the population was also increasing in these states. The population was also increasing, so they were shifting their population to these less developed or underdeveloped countries, right, which they called as colonies, so accommodating their surplus or extra population, right? Then uh, it was considered as white man's burden. It was considered as white man's burden to civilize the Asians and Africans. They actually considered themselves very superior because they were white, so they considered themselves very superior. So it was also one reason why it causes repression. The exclusive use of colonies as colonies resources that we have already discussed, the sources of raw material, and there were other sources also. It can be land, okay, trading ports, clear, uh, labor force. So these were another resources that were taken from the colonies, right? So these are the causes of imperialism. So let's move ahead to the impact of imperialism. So we have the positive impact because the imperialist states actually led to the development of very underdeveloped areas. So we have both positive and negative impacts. So first we are going to talk about the positive impacts. So the first thing that they started was development. Now, what kind of development, right? Infrastructure. Now how? Roads, railways. Now, India wasn't having railway lines, so it was done by the Britishers. The Britishers gave India railway, then canals for irrigation. So all this developmental work or the infrastructure was actually brought by the Britishers. Then coming to the second point, it says that industries. This was also one reason. Now, industries, they actually build these industries for their own benefit. But finally, these industries actually provided employment to the people, right? Then coming to the next, the third point says that the medical care facilities. This was also one very important thing. Medical care and proper sanitization. Okay, proper sanitization, sanitation. Okay, so this was also one positive thing. And the last thing, that technology, it was brought by them. And actually technology, when technology was introduced, it led to modernization of these countries. So these were the positive impacts of the imperialism. Let's move to, okay, so the negative impact of imperialism. So the first was impact on agriculture. Agriculture, okay. How? See, any country which is into agriculture, we all knew that most of the ancient civilizations also had the agriculture. Now agriculture was actually the source of earning for them, but the countries, the colonies were actually, you know, they were actually forced to grow commercial crops. Okay, now instead of growing the regular crops, which were the means of earning, which were the means of living for the people of the colonies, they were forced to grow the commercial crops to, meet the requirements of the industries and the factories which were producing finished goods. So it's actually what happened because of this commercial crop growing, the the self-sufficiency, self-sufficiency was destroyed. Now this was actually a very big setback for the people of the colonies. So the impact on agriculture, the old aged agrarian methods or the agrarian economy was totally destroyed because people were forced to grow the commercial crops. This destroyed the self-sufficiency of the people. So the next was uh, the land revenue system. And the land revenue system, there were heavy taxation, and this was actually, to suit the requirements of the, the imperial states. And if the people fail to, pay the land revenue, their whole land was confiscated by the Britishers. So the land revenue system was also was one of the very big negative impact of imperialism. Then the impact on handicraft industry. Handicraft industry was also destroyed because now people were using finished goods, and these finished goods were actually factory made, right? They were factory made goods, and the handicrafts industry was totally influenced. Now this actually, also resulted in unemployment, right? This was another reason. And the last was impact on society. Now, impact on society. How? Britishers consider themselves racially superior. Now, because they were racially superior, so they actually, made lots of changes in education, customs, and tradition. And all this was actually replaced by Western uh, West Western culture. So every country lost their own tradition, customs because they were actually influenced by the Western culture. So these were the negative impacts of the imperialism. That's all in this video. Thank you, children. I hope it will provide you lots of information.